This is the College Hockey News Insiders Podcast.
Wilmer behind the back, spinorama, he scores! What a goal by Jeremy Wilmer!
Discussion.
Into the net with a shot, he scores! Owen Mike goes 4-2, Western Michigan.
Opinion.
Back into the near circle, fires, he scores! Hysteria here in Hockey Valley as Penn State upsets number 2 Minnesota.
Special guests and your listener questions.
The icing is waved and it's over! Western Michigan has won it. The Broncos are the Frozen Four champions of 2025.
Taking you through the world of college hockey, here are your hosts, Adam Roden and Mike McMahon.
All right, welcome here to the College Hockey News Insiders Podcast, and Mike McMahon will be joining us later. We've got Pat Micheletti coming up here in just a minute, and lots to talk about. There is plenty going on in the world of college hockey, as it doesn't seem to end. That's a beautiful thing. We have a sport that continues to find intriguing storylines and give us something to talk about. And check out collegehockeynews.com for all the latest stats, standings, figures, articles, you name it. Hope you're all doing that on a regular basis. So just sent out a new version of our Android app as we continue. I mean, a couple of weeks ago we had another version which got the NPI in there. But our Android app is really starting to get really slick these days, so check that out, and more to come on that as well as we move on. All right, we are joined by Pat Micheletti of these days all sorts of TV networks. I mean, it depends on what's going on. So welcome.
I'm everywhere, Adam.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It's a good thing. Wherever the is the need in the Big Ten, you're there. So
yes,
it's hard to keep track of all that stuff these days, streaming and whatever.
It really is. Yes.
So before we get into
the more hockey we can, college hockey, we can get on TV and and try to get more fans, the better.
That is true, and that is why I spent about a week recently updating our website so that you have direct links to all streaming broadcasts in our game summaries.
Awesome.
And on our app. So there you go. Everyone can check it out. Our Android app, anyway. So anyway, let's get into it. First of all, before the weekend, I know that recently, I don't know the details, but you had a health scare. Can you just tell the listeners what happened there?
Well, really crazy. 10 years ago, I had a kidney transplant.
Right.
So I went to the Mayo for my annual checkup, which turned out to be fabulous. Knock on wood. And but you're in a place like that, and you're susceptible to anything, right? And I'm immunosuppressed.
I see.
So it started kind of there because they think I caught a virus there.
Oh,
okay?
Gotcha.
And but then the weird thing is, a couple weeks later, I just started noticing I was walking. It was harder to walk. And I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. And then my fingers started to numb up a little bit. And I told the doctor, and he said, well, keep an eye on it. And then. And
you think you got this while you were at the clinic?
I think I caught a virus there.
Yeah, right.
And then ultimately it was a neurological it turned into a neurological problem. And so all my nerves, like my hands are numb, my feet are numb, my legs are about like toothpicks right now.
Oh,
In
right.
fact, I could turn this and show you my modus operandi now is my walker. And then the first series of the year, we had Michigan Tech in. Great series. Watch out for Michigan Tech.
Yeah.
Watch out for the CCHA. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So I used a cane to get to the press box because my legs were really it was hard to walk. And then I think it was the following weekend, we had Boston College in.
Right.
And that one was hard. I used my walker. In fact, I told Bob and the staff, usually I go in the locker room and we BS about the 79 World Series. We don't talk hockey. Yeah. We talk other things, before the game, right?
Yeah.
So I said, Bob, I can't come down. I can't walk that well. And then And then the following week they played at North Dakota. So that was a road trip. And I'm thinking, I'm like, God, my legs are really getting bad. I don't think I can do it. Called, made other arrangements. They got somebody else. Well, during that week, my legs got weaker and weaker and weaker. I fell on that following Sunday, and my wife and I got in the car, went right to the Mayo, and 24 days later, I came home.
Yeah, wow. Did they figure it out?
And I went through, Adam, every test imaginable. PET scan, two MRIs, EMGs, testing the nerve damage. You name it. I went through it. And the good thing is, nothing else is wrong with me. The bad thing is, I've got pretty bad nerve damage.
Really?
So
it's not like, I always worry about ALS and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, and that all got eliminated. Everything got eliminated. It was just a neurological episode,
like a virus that just hits the nerves, some kind of thing.
And then I was lacking in a few vitamins that
right
played into it. But the good thing is I'm getting treated with steroids every week for the next 12 weeks. And I just got back from PT tonight, and I've made a ton of progress.
Nice.
I'm walking upstairs. Just I have to hold on. Obviously.
They feel like there's a lot of room for improvement there.
Oh yeah. So I'm. It's just going to be a lot of hard work, and but they're confident that I'm going to get back. Well, I don't know what normal is.
Yeah.
But. I'm going to get back.
Yeah.
We just don't have a timetable.
Well, no. I appreciate that you're here. Your hockey mind is sharp.
Well, I don't know. Has it ever been?
Well,
I don't know.
No worse than it used to be.
Yeah, I don't know, Adam. I don't know. But the great thing was, it was a national televised game on Friday, and there was no way I was not going to work it. And they wanted me back the week before against Long Island. I said, I'm not ready,
right?
Because I just gotten home. But, they worked it out. And the people in the truck, and our producer, and everybody was just so helpful in making this work for me, and we pulled it off, I think. So
yeah. Well, look, I wish you all the best. Obviously, our fingers will be crossed, but I'm sure it sounds like anyway that you have the mind is as important as anything. You have a good spirit about it.
My physical therapist, she was like, get out of here, because I'm telling her, you're not working me hard enough.
Yeah, right.
I said, you don't know my ability to work to get back. So she says, oh, geez, okay, I get it.
Right.
So sent me home with a bunch of stuff to do, and I've been working at home and, working at PT. So I'm my attitude is where it should be.
Well, this is good timing, because Mike is going to jump in right now. And Mike is here. We've got Pat here.
Michael.
Mike is back.
Michael, nice to talk to you.
What's going on?
We were just talking about Pat's 24-day stint in the hospital, but we'll fill you in on more on that later. He's on the upswing. That's all that matters.
Hey, let me tell you one. Let me say one thing before we talk hockey. Yeah. You two guys are the best in college hockey, bar none.
You sure you don't say that's all the shows you're on?
I'm not on there. No, I'm not on very many.
Well, you're like it's like when the band comes to town, they go, "You guys are the best audience ever," and they just said that the night before to Des Moines.
Right.
Well, I appreciate it. But
seriously, I mean it. I really mean it.
Well, thank you, and certainly back at you, because it's great to listen. I didn't know all that what was going on. And didn't know why you were away. So it was great to hear you this weekend. So let's get into that. As we were saying before we started, different games, the two games. Minnesota played a great game on Friday. Saturday, I don't know. They were there. Let's put it this way. What do you take out of this as far as like what Minnesota is and what Penn State is? Because I don't know how to read it.
I don't. And I say this because Penn State went 0-9 to start the Big Ten season last year.
Right.
I say that because Minnesota last year, you walked in the building, you automatically had 3 or 4 goals. And it is completely flipped.
Right.
And when I watched Penn State a year ago, it was a team that was quick strike, that was throw the pucks anywhere. They get it, they throw it, they go, and everything's at the net. Now they got higher skilled guys. Now they're making plays. They're different, okay? Minnesota, they've got 5 forwards that play in the top 9.
Mm-hmm.
5, okay? Or, well, top 12, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're top, they switch them around. But, so you've got guys that are good players, are going to be good players, but they're freshmen and they're young and they're playing against older players throughout, college hockey, which we can get into. But that's the way Bob went.
But there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's the way it is sometimes, right?
There's nothing wrong with it because that's who Minnesota is.
There's a rebuilding year. It's fine.
There's nothing wrong with it, and they will get better.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're a national championship team, contender, this, that, or the other thing, but they will get better. Penn State had 3 guys out that are key guys: Christensen, Fink, and I'm drawing a blank on the other guy, another forward.
Yeah.
You get Fink in the lineup, it's a completely different team. He is a stud, and you want a goal, you go to Aiden Fink. Period. Stop. And you get Christensen back on the blue line, and the Smith kid is, my God, is he good? So
the defenseman,
I think Penn State will be really good once they really figure out their identity, who they are, how they need to play to win games. Their goaltending, both their guys, fabulous. Fleming, the young kid, a kid out of Montreal, calm as all day long. Riedler. Is that wow. Big kid. Unbelievable saves he made. Minnesota could have won the game on a couple shots, right? So I don't want to say, Penn State this, McKenna that. I think Charlie Serrato, mark it down right here, guys. I'm saying it right now. I don't know if he'll win the Hobey Baker, but I think he's going to be a candidate, a strong candidate.
I'm on the committee this year, so I'll have something to say about that.
You know what? But he's a freaking gamer. He's a gamer, and he plays hard. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Not too much.
So do I. You talked about Penn State's goalies, right? I'm curious, what have you seen from Minnesota's goalies? Because I've been a big fan of DePasquale since he was at Michigan State. I know they were fans of him too. They're kind of split things. Both guys, it seems like both guys have had nights where they've looked really good, and then both guys have had nights where it's been like, we need a little more out of them.
I think you're going to see DePasquale take over. You could not play Airy on Saturday the way he played on Friday. He was fabulous on Friday. The game on Friday, guys, if you get a chance to go back and watch it, it was fabulous. Both goalies were fabulous. Both teams made great plays. And it was back and forth, and it was really, really good.
We've had the risk of turning into Gavin McKenna radio here, but we'd be remiss. I don't like to focus only on him all the time. Like you said, there's all these other guys, but I have to ask you what you thought, because he really has been struggling at 5-on-5, and he had 3 assists on the weekend. I think all were power play.
Yes.
So I'm just curious, and I'm not trashing the kid. I mean, it's hard, but I'm just curious what you saw out of him.
Here's what I look at, and maybe other guys don't look at it this way. I look at his skill level, and it's beyond off the charts. His vision, Yes, a lot of it occurs on the power play, okay? But you still have to have all that, right? He's 17 years old. He's small. His body hasn't matured yet. I don't look at, we're all judging, is he going to be the number one pick or is he going to be, I'd look at it as, well, what if a team really needs a defenseman who can get up the ice, move the puck, run a power play, Zeev Buium-like, and we need this for our team. Well, that changes everything about who's going to be number one or number two, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't look at it as, this player's having the best year, hence he should be the number one pick in the draft. I look at McKenna, and I believe that in 2 years, his body is going to grow. And once his body grows, and once his mind grows, maturity-wise, he's going to be that player. I'm not going to judge him now. It's not fair. He's playing, and it's great for him to be in this league because, hey, Guy Godowski's son is 22 years old. That's one guy. How many guys in the league are 21, 22? Some are 23. Mm-hmm. And you guys know the difference of just a grizzled guy who's been around, who knows his way around the rink, and knows how to play, right? So so that's my take on Gavin.
I would think too it's going to help him because he was playing with Fink a little bit too. You pointed out, you talked about Fink earlier, but just having that presence back on his line, I think is going to be a big boost for him. Just obviously like what he's going to bring from a production standpoint, but just having a veteran guy to lean on in some of those situations, having a guy on the bench that's going to talk him through some situations.
And here's the thing too, which you guys also know, is that if you're a coach in the opposite room, and you're game planning Penn State, you're not just going to have to look at Gavin McKenna and the line he's on, because when Fink comes back and if they play together, okay, there's those two, and then you got DeMarsico and Serrato and that line and Wiebusch and Labach, wherever all of a sudden, you're not looking at one line to stop. You're looking at two lines to stop. You may only have one checking line. How are you going to do that? How are you going to play it? So that's why I'm saying let's wait until January, February, when Penn State settles. They're going to be, and they get Christensen back. So you have two horses on the back end. I should say three, because Godowski's pretty good. They're going to be tough to beat. I really, if they get structured, because sometimes they get a little messy in their own end, as on Friday night, they were the first 7 minutes of the game. My gosh, they turned the puck over like 4 times and giving Minnesota, right in close opportunities, which they couldn't score.
I saw a couple shots of Guy on TV where it looked like he wanted to go somewhere else. Oh my God! Yeah, but thank God for a pipe and their goaltender making saves, or else it could have been 3-0 early, and it wasn't. Well, you made allusion to the age disparity, and I got into it with Tom Chorsky on Twitter because he posted something about how LIU is so much older, and I don't know exactly what he was saying, but the implication was that it's kind of unfair there. So I don't see it as unfairness. I mean, Bob chooses to recruit a certain way. No one's crying for Minnesota. That's why I said I more defend Bob, because I don't think the sky is falling just because you have a step back year where you're freshman, you're younger, and you need to grow.
Here's the deal: he made a commitment to go to for these guys. He made the commitment. You guys are coming in, so that leaves your roster out. Yeah, they bring in Ludke, right, and they bring in DePasquale, and that was it.
And they could have made a play for all these, but the catch. I was just talking to Mike Hastings about this very thing because he also didn't really dip into the big pool. He had a good freshman class, but you run the risk of alienating the guys you had already recruited if all of a sudden in July you're bringing – and it's not to disparage what Penn State or Michigan State did, but it's just it's a risky move. So I can see it either way.
Yeah, and listen, guys, I had a long talk with Tom Serratori the other day, and he talked. I can't get a word in edgewise.
You can't. Well, if that's how that goes.
So you think of that. Think of that one for a second. Yeah. But he said, you know what, Mick? He said, I gotta. If I'm going to win, I'm going to win with older guys.
Yeah.
And that's the way I have to do it. And they're off to a great start, by the way. And we can talk CCHA, which I'll surprise you with my thought process on that league, because it gets so beaten up. But he's saying, this is the way of the world. You get older guys, guys who can play. Maybe not all. You're not going to get all superstars, but you're going to get guys that have played and guys that are, grizzled and mature. And he had a guy score 4 the other night for him.
That's right.
That may be the way of the world of, look at Boston College. They're young, right? They got a young team. They're talented as all get up, I think, from when I saw them. But, this is the new college hockey. And like it or not, you build your team the way you think you can.
It's survival of the fittest, man. No one's crying for anybody at this point.
And I remember, maybe I told you guys, but I thought last year about 10 to 12 teams could have won the national title. I thought, in fact, Minnesota State was the better team against Western Michigan.
Yeah.
Overtime game could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
Okay, it didn't. Congratulations, Western Michigan, because they proved they could win. But I think this year there are 20 to 25 teams that could win in the Frozen Four this year. I really do. Be just built on how old some of the teams are, how much better some of the teams have gotten, and the parity throughout college hockey this year, I think, is the best it's been in a long time.
That's where I think the CHL recruiting has helped, especially teams like Minnesota State. And I think you're going to see that with the CCHA teams too, is those teams will tend to be older now, but older with players that are similar skill level to maybe the high-end USHL players that were going into college to the Big Ten schools at 18 years old, right? So like that's where I agree with you. I think you're going to see that pool of potential teams that could make the tournament and win the tournament's going to get bigger and bigger because there's just so many more better players in college.
First of all, don't you guys think we should expand the tourney? That's another subject for another day. Maybe not. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But I'm telling you now, there are 6 teams in the CCHA that could win the league. That's how tight it is. Every night, I'm talking Augustana, Bowling Green, Michigan Tech, Bemidji State,
St. Thomas.
Minnesota State, and St. Thomas.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, guys. I've seen them all. I've seen them all play, and it is the CCHA is different this year because you can actually see guys that make plays and score goals. Different than get the puck, get it out, get it in, bam, 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 off the glass.
Yeah,
it's different, and the goaltending is better. Bartoskevich at Michigan Tech, really good. You know about Tracy. Bemidji State brought in a guy who's pretty good. St. Thomas has a very good goaltender.
Yeah.
Kotai. And I'm telling you, don't sleep on that league. Everyone, the CCHA, worst league in college, blah, blah, blah. Watch. Mark my words, okay?
We are going to. We have it on tape.
Thank you. You can come back to this at the Frozen Four and tell me all about it.
Well, that's in Vegas, so you can. You better make sure you make it there. It's we're looking forward to making sure you're there.
Right.
You can't miss Vegas. You can't miss Vegas
for sure. You got it.
But we call it the Metcalf rule because if we go over an hour, Steve Metcalf yells at us. So we got to be careful here because I got a 20-minute interview with Mike Hastings. I got to get in here.
Do you?
Yeah.
Hey, I was texting with him the other day.
Yeah.
Congratulating him obviously on the big sweep.
Have you gotten to see them much yet? Because that's they're.
Well, you know what? They are Mike Hastings' team now.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Because my theory is when his first year, when they won a lot of games, that it was almost like that was just sort of an anomaly, and last year was more the rebuilding year that I thought they would have the first year, and now this year it's all coming together. So they just kind of did it backwards, but
he's such a damn good coach too, and he has that innate ability to get his players to buy into what he wants. It may take a little time, but man, when they hit it, they are so hard to play against, and they got enough skill, and they got enough guys that know how to play. Their question mark will ultimately come down to their goaltending.
Yeah, which so far has been pretty good.
It's been okay.
It was good at first, and then they hit a blip.
Kind of dropped, and now they got the other guy. And in fact, the guy who transferred from
Minnesota
guess where?
State, yes.
Minnesota State. Eli Pulver, right?
Yep. He wasn't getting any time behind Alex Tracy, so.
Yeah, who would?
So there you go. Well, we're gonna get this all down, but as far as for the show is concerned, we gotta move on. So, but wish you all the best health wise, and
thank you guys.
We don't want to miss you in Vegas. So,
and you guys again, nothing but respect for both of you. You're the best.
Class, today we're talking men's ice hockey. Open your textbooks. Join thousands of other screaming fans for an in-person experience you have to see to believe. It's the NCAA Men's Frozen 4, April 9th and 11th in Las Vegas. Attendance is encouraged. Passion is mandatory. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/mfrozen4.
How many teams are in the Men's Frozen 4?
Please leave.
All right, welcome back to the show, and we are joined by Wisconsin coach Mike Hastings. Our team of the week this week, and often an asterisk when a team wins one of their games in overtime, but going to Michigan State and doing that was pretty impressive, and getting the overtime winner, that was a great goal by Ben Dexheimer with Porter Martone draped all over his back to win that game on Saturday.
Obviously, a tremendous amount of respect for Nighty and everything that they do. They're a good hockey team, and they were two completely different games. Probably not the best recipe to spot them a 2-goal lead on take 3 penalties in the first period and start out that way, but I liked how we responded after that.
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, the second period was huge, and it started out with Christian Fitzgerald, who's an interesting guy. Obviously, he was with you in Minnesota State for the year. And then, I don't know if call last year a disappointment, or it was kind of a disappointment for everybody, I guess. But what has he done this year to channel, I guess, where he, should be at this point as a senior?
Yeah, just, what I think confidence is a big thing. And I think the best way to garner confidence is putting the work in, and it's not that he wasn't prior. It's just getting it off to a good start. It's these guys have to go through a lot. Prior to that year, he's sitting down with multiple, opportunities potentially at the end of the year for what he'd be doing, and that can be cumbersome. It can become stressful, and I think he flushed that this summer. And really just said, I'm going to focus on being the best version of myself physically and mentally. And I think that poured into his confidence from the first weekend, and had a great weekend against Lindenwood. And since then, he really hasn't looked back. He's back to playing on a wall, which is something that him and I talked about during the summer of, his best year offensively in the time that he's been in college hockey has been when he's been on the wall. And he made the move to the center for really twofold. One, show some versatility that I think he definitely has in his game. and then him having some success offensively, I think after being moved to the wall, it's freed him up. One of his greatest assets is his ability to skate. And so that's, freed him up a little bit more through the neutral zone. And I just think it's poured into his confidence from what he put in this summer and has allowed him to be an impact guy for us every night.
Because that's been mostly with Morrissey, right, at center?
Yep.
Yeah. And
those two have kind of been a pair.
Okay.
From day one. And we had a little bit of, Tulk's been with him at times, but again, Tulk's been moved back to the wall, and that's been a positive impact on our group. And him and Gavin, I think just, Gavin's a distributor trying to get Christian. And I think one of the things that, he has said has been a big plus for him is he's trying to become more of a shot first guy, especially playing with a guy like Gavin, who is more of a distributor. And it's allowed his game to, I think, grow and his confidence to grow.
Looking back at last year, I'm sure you've been asked this a million times over the course of the year, but now given a little bit of distance from it, I suppose. Were you able to identify some of the, or was it just one of those fluky years where it looks worse than it really was, or did you really pinpoint on some areas that you thought this is what we got to do differently? Yeah,
a couple of things. One, you look at the teams that are successful this year and what do they get? They're getting goaltending.
Right.
And the teams that are successful are getting goaltending and given their goaltending support offensively. We didn't score enough. We gave up too much. And you being a hockey guy, you understand there's a lot that goes into that. It's not just that simple. But, we go out and we play. We get a shutout in our first game. And again, I go back to my first year and our goaltender goes out. I'm looking to probably split the first weekend, and he pitches a shutout. And I'm going to try not to overcoach. When a guy does that, you give him the ball back the next night, and he was good again. And then you saw the run that he was on over the first 8 games. It gave our team, with 8 freshmen and 2 transfers, an opportunity to make mistakes without costing games. And that's an opportunity for young guys like a Montgomery. Even, Grady Deering ends up scoring a big goal for us that weekend. It just allowed our young guys an opportunity to go through that growth without it going in the back of your net.
Yeah. It's obviously Hauser had an interesting run. We were talking a lot about him on our podcast here, but how would you sum up then? I mean, because you go to Pulver this weekend, I guess Hauser maybe hit a wall. I'm not sure how you look. I'm not there every day, so how do you sum up what's happened with the goalies here in the last few weeks?
I wish I could tell you that it was planned. It wasn't. It's one of those where you kind of let them decide it. And, Daniel had such a strong start. It was hard to go a different direction. And then, we like to tell our goaltenders, if you can get us to 90 and we win a hockey game, you've done your job. And I know that's not a perfect world because you go on one side or the other a little bit with your gut on those things. And, really over the previous 4 games to this weekend, our numbers weren't great there. I thought he rebounded real well in game 2 against Michigan. That wasn't a 6-1 game. He made some that he shouldn't have made and all the ones that he should. And then, we come back and the weekend goes that it did against Ohio State. They came in and they had an edge, and I figured it was a good time to give a guy that's been working his tail off an opportunity.
Yeah.
And he took advantage of it.
I was going to say, Eli's interesting story was at Minnesota State last year. Alex Tracy, obviously sort of in front of him, I guess. Did you guys have interface, you and Todd interface with him before? Had you?
Yeah, we had. We had recruited him a little bit when we were at Minnesota State. And even prior to him going to Minnesota State and committing there, he was somebody that we'd tracked. And, in the transfer portal situation, the thing I really respect about the kid is he has a freshman coming in that's got a pretty good resume. And he wasn't afraid to say, yeah, I'll put my hat in the ring there. And he's come in and he's a quiet kid, doesn't say a lot, just goes to work every day. And he was very much prepared for the opportunity when it presented itself.
Let me get back to the weekend's games here for a sec, because you took that lead, and then the third period was kind of wild again with them score and you score and they score again. And what was that last 10 minutes like on the? I expected more goals there, but you battened down the hatches pretty good.
You know what? We were in a similar situation, I think, and I know they're not exactly alike, but Friday night against Michigan, we scored to go up with under 10 minutes left, and I thought and credit Michigan. Michigan's Michigan, and they stress you out in a lot of different ways. And we just didn't manage puck well over that last 9 minutes, and they did what they needed to do to win the hockey game. And I thought that was handled in a much more calm manner on Friday night to give us the opportunity that we did. We didn't fold in that situation, and it was a great opportunity for us to grow.
That Martone's the real deal, though, huh? I mean,
he is a ball player.
I love those big power forwards like that.
Oh, yeah, I think there's a lot of people that do at a level higher than I am at.
Yeah, right.
He's a competitor, and he's talented, and him and Strammel, that line is a line to deal with. They're very productive, but they play both ends of the rink. They're a real hard matchup with their size and their abilities.
Yeah, he scored 2 on Friday and then had the extra attacker goal on Saturday, but he managed to overcome both of them, so that's good. Was there a particular message on Saturday after how wide open that game was Friday, or was it just back to the basics?
You know what, a little bit just back to trying to get off to a better start.
Yeah.
Right? Let's not go to the box, and that, and they like to play fast, so I thought we were a little irresponsible with our third forward and us trying to create offense. And I thought we did a better job on that on Saturday. But I thought the difference really in Saturday's game, both goaltenders were outstanding.
Yeah. So in the time I have left here, I just philosophy wise, I'm sure you talk to the locals a lot, but I haven't talked to you in the last year or so specifically about this. But you didn't necessarily dip into that pool with all the big names. We don't have to get into them all, but is that a philosophical thing? Is it? I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't do that, right?
Yeah, it's one that I think philosophy better be agile right now, and then you better be flexible in looking at what works and what doesn't. One thing that we had there is we had a group of freshmen that were coming in that when we recruited them for specific reasons. And Tolk had been a guy that had been offensively successful over his time. Montgomery had been, and then I thought, through his time in Lincoln and his time in London, he was put in a different role to not have to be that offensive guy, and that really helped round out his game. Zelenoff, I always thought if we could get him, and we're still trying to get him to be a little bit more of a shot first guy, was a guy that would impact us offensively. And really all three of those guys have. And then you add Luke Osborne, where if you look at how he was playing up until when he gets sick, that I thought he was about as a big impact freshman we have on our team. And then we were hoping our goaltending would be what it was. So we wanted to give those guys the opportunity to play the roles that we were hoping they'd play. And from day one, they've done that. And so that's why I think, you've got to look at that and say, okay, do you continue to try and pick 1 or 2 year guys, put them in positions, and is that transition going to be as quick as what we knew we were getting on the other end?
I think you're getting rewarded for that now. I mean, it was definitely something we talked about over the summer where, all of a sudden the floodgates open for major junior players, then it's like these shiny toys, but then you would have to cut guys who you had promised to come, right? So, or guys currently on your roster. So it was an interesting dynamic to see how everyone handled that,
You're right on there. And that was conversations in our room multiple times with staff on, we've got some history here as far as if you get some time and you get to know somebody, one in their abilities, and then 2 in their makeup and what you'd talk to them about, their opportunity was going to be, that was one we were willing to live with. And we needed, when you asked what was from the year before, we needed to upgrade our skill, our ability to make plays. And we thought we had that in that group, and those guys, given that opportunity, have come in and managed that really well. And we're fortunate because of that, that we didn't go a different direction.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be careful what you do to your room when not that you don't have to comment on that, but you have to always be careful, you know?
Well, you know what, our guys are a big point of our recruiting process, right? They spend time with our players. What are we selling in that locker room and what are they buying? And so, these guys had some relationships that our summer was really big because our guys that were returning did a really good job at helping that new group come in and understand they were going to be freshmen for a very short period of time. And we talk about it a lot right now. We have no more freshmen, right? They've played, 15, 20 games of college hockey. When you're talking about it, that's a big sample size. And, they're not playing like freshmen.
Right. Going forward then, I assume and there's the money aspect too. It's like two completely new things. One's the money and one's the major junior thing that are all into play this year. But I assume you got some sort of budget. I don't expect you to tell me the exact numbers or anything, but I assume the school says, here's what you got. And, everyone's going to figure out how to allot that differently, I guess. I
think so. I think it's everybody's, and it's one thing if when they first started this, they said there's going to be transparency across,
right?
The sport, whether it's football, basketball, ourselves. I haven't seen a window pop up. I don't get to see what BU's doing or BC or Minnesota or, you go through the process and that's what's unique, I think, about this is people are putting a plan together that's based upon their own perceptions,
right,
and what's important. And then they're trying to execute it. And right now we're going through that, but like I said, investing in the guys that were here, investing in the guys that we had coming in. But I do believe there's a piece that can supplement that.
Yeah, right.
And then it's just a matter of what your needs are and what you have coming in behind that, as well as what you have returning.
I hate dwelling on the money, but just one more thing on that. Does the school say, here's the number, or do they kind of just say, hey, come to us when you got someone, we'll let you know?
No, well, and I don't know how everybody's doing it. Our school gives, that we sit down, we talk about it. I'm going to tell you, my vote isn't as much as the AD. I can tell you that it's one where they allot what you're getting, and
gotcha.
But I feel very comfortable in stating that we'll be as competitive as anybody else.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure of that. I'm not worried about you in every
No, and I'm not saying that in a boastful way.
Yeah. No, I know.
Because at the end of the day,
I'm not worried about you guys. I'm worried about the Minnesota States and the Clarksons of the world. You know
what? And I agree with you 100%. And actually, that's something that, you hope that doesn't end up being such a driving force, because you better be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I appreciate that. I know that you care. I mean, a lot of people probably don't, but I appreciate that you do. Last thing, though, is major junior wise, though, do you expect, I guess next summer probably won't be as big a thing, right? Now it's just, okay, that's just another league we got to recruit from now, right?
Yeah, actually, that's right on the head of the nail. It's another pool that we're going to try and go out and do the same thing that we were doing previously of building the relationships with the staffs of the programs that we're recruiting from and get to know the athlete as much as you look at what they do on the ice, but getting to know the human being and what's important to them. Does a degree matter? Are you academically driven and balance driven? That, I love the idea that every guy that comes in here wants to play in the National Hockey League. I think that should be their goal. But I also, there's a responsibility here from day one. When I sat down with Chris McIntosh, he wanted us to try and win more hockey games, but not at the cost of,
right,
short-sighting what they can get from being at the University of Wisconsin.
Well, last thing, this is back on the ice, thankfully, where we like talking about better. But over the next month or so, you're off this weekend. You got the 2 games at Notre Dame and then the tournament at the end of December. That's it. So how are you approaching this next 5 weeks or so?
Yeah, well, this is an off week, so you manage that in trying to take a little bit of a deep breath physically for your guys, talk to your leadership group, and see where we're at there while we're still trying to get better this week. But working on the physical and letting some of the guys try and get what they can get off their plate academically this week. And then we're going to go into a place that, is a difficult place to play. They've made it difficult on everybody. They played a lot of close games, and that staff's doing a really good job there. So we're not done yet. We've got to get through that Saturday against Notre Dame, and then we can look at what our first half is, but not until those games are done. All
right. Yeah, I appreciate your time, Coach. In the future, hopefully we just talk more about hockey and less about this other stuff. But got to do it,
That'd be good. Yep. No, and I appreciate you doing what you do always, Adam.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Get hurt in the game? We tough it out. Feel exhausted? We push on. Feeling down? We pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. But there are times when bootstraps aren't enough. When stress gets to us and we need to talk to someone about what we're really going through. So we're going to reach out, because sometimes mental health is not a one-person job. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
All right, welcome back to the College Hockey News Insiders podcast, and that was Wisconsin coach Mike Hastings. And, we've been talking a lot about Wisconsin and their goaltender, Hauser, who the freshman came in. We mentioned him a few weeks ago on the podcast, how he's kind of an undersized goalie these days. And then he looked like he hit a wall for the last few games right after we talked about him, so we really jinxed him, I guess. And then Eli Polter comes in and wins 2 games at Michigan State. So, he barely played last year for Minnesota State behind Alex Tracy, and then this year now he gets thrown into Munn Arena in the zoo there. So that's pretty huge for them. I mean, if they can have the 2 guys, we'll see if Hauser bounces back from that. But they're a pretty good team, and I was most interested with him talking about Christian Fitzgerald moving back to wing this year, which has helped him out. And the other interesting thing that he talked about was just about, what I alluded to earlier, where they did not dip into the whole, the big arms race and throw money around at guys. And certainly they can, it's not like they can't.
Yeah.
But stuck with the freshmen that he was bringing in, and they've been pretty good, that freshman class.
They have been. Yeah, and I'm curious to see what they do with the goaltending situation. You talked about Pulver. I mean, obviously he didn't play a lot last year behind Tracy, but I was looking at him earlier today, and you look at his numbers that he had in the BCHL before he went to Minnesota State, and it's like a .930 goalie his last 2 years. He got a .943 save percentage in 18 playoff games the year before his freshman year. So, he's a guy that can make that type of impact. He did so far, and now and I think they will have the ability to go back and forth if they want to, because like you said, Hauser had been really good at the start of the year. I'm sure he can have another streak like that again. They obviously saw more in him out of the preseason, or else he wouldn't have started 12 games to this point. But they've got some options there now, and those Mike Hastings teams seem to always be built around depth, and they even got depth at goaltender, which not every team has.
Right. What's interesting too, though, is that there's a lot of teams where we were talking about their goalies who then have had goalie problems. Even Albin Boya, right? They started the other guy, and I'm gonna not even remember half these guys' names, but Mathis Rousseau shuts out Boston College on Saturday after BC scored 7 on Friday, and so now do we have a goalie controversy at Maine? Albin Boya was a Hobie candidate.
I know. Well, they left Boya in for 6 of those goals.
Yeah.
Basically the whole game, played 59 minutes and allowed 6 of those goals on 27 shots. And he's been up and down. I mean, he's had some rough night. Quinnipiac game was not a great game. The game against Boston University at home on Halloween was not a great game. So it doesn't shock me that they went in another direction. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, Rousseau had not been great either. He didn't look very good in that second BU game or in that second Quinnipiac game. The 2 weekends where Boya struggled, they went with Rousseau the next night, and he wasn't great either. 9 goals in 2 games. So this was the first one where he really popped and obviously stole the show. 21 saves, had a shutout. But that game on Saturday looked more. I watched chunks of that today, and that looked more to me like he played well. Don't get me wrong; he had a shutout. But that was much more about Maine just clamping things down on the defensive zone. They only allowed 21 shots. They only generated 19. Like they weren't flying in transition as much as they normally do. It was more puck possession, limit chances, and it worked. But at some point, they're not going to continue to score 3 goals on 21 shots every night. So they're going to have to figure a way to balance both of it.
Well, and then just running down the list here, I mean, this is not his fault. Lawton Zaker got hurt. I don't think it's long-term, but Quentin Surgutson comes in. And, actually, his numbers in limited time last year were pretty good. This year, his first 2 games here against BU, and he looked pretty good. So, when do they maybe give him more chance to play? I don't know. That's gonna, it's almost unfair. He's doing fine.
Well, you run the risk too of if you don't. This is something that is not there's not just Northeastern. It's every school playing this game. I'm sure. If you don't give him time to play this year, and it's Zaker's crease every time he's healthy, which is fine because he's been fantastic, but you run the risk of losing that guy because just like Eli Pulver, Luca DePasquale, all these guys that were good, had good numbers where they were, but were behind solidified starters, they go into the portal and they look for a new home.
Yeah.
That's not something they needed to worry about 10 years ago. It's something that college coaches obviously have to worry about now.
Well, I'm just going down the line here because there's more. I mean, we're just getting started here because the next one I was going to talk about is Michael Rabel. Jackson Irving now has played 6 games. He played the last 2 home and home against Providence. His goals against average is kind of high at 3.34, but Providence had 88 shots on net in that home and home. So Irving, his save percentage is .922. Last year was pretty good in the time when Rabel was at the World Juniors. He was pretty decent. So it's another example of a guy he's the number 2, but maybe they should split more time because Rabel, has he been hurt too?
He's been hurt right now, and it doesn't sound like that they have a definitive timetable on when he'll be back. I saw last week that he was skating. He took part in a morning skate Friday, I think, when UMass was at Providence. I think that was Friday. But Carville said today, I saw the Zoom clip earlier today. He did his weekly media Zoom. He's still day to day. But the quote was, "quote We need to get a goalie back and have him be have him have a .940 save percentage, which is what he was supposed to do this year."
Jeez, that's what you're banking on.
That's pretty high. Now he's going to come back, having not played for a month, and it's tough to be on top of your game. So
he's a 9/11.
It sounds like he's close.
He wasn't lighting the world on fire before.
No. Well, and I think that was his point. His point was we need him to come back and be the goalie we thought he was going to be, not be a 9/11 goalie.
Yeah, and I mean Irving is 922. So I know he's hurt,
Rabel was 924 last year.
Right. But so is Irving. I mean, he's not. Again, like you said, I mean, how long does a guy like that stick around if he's going to be, not get a chance to play every game when he's pretty good? So
yeah, and I think some of it, like DePasquale wouldn't have transferred from Michigan State if Augustine signed. So some of this is predicated on what happens with the guy that's in front of you in the offseason. If Michael Rabel comes back to UMass, for his senior year, Jackson Irving may look to transfer. If Rabel leaves and signs at the end of this year, Jackson Irving might be the starter at UMass next year. So many things can sway those decisions.
Yeah, and then the next one, as I run down the list, we mentioned this a little bit last week, but it has continued to take a turn for the worse, I think, is Simon Latkozy, who has been he was lights out, ridiculous, and all of a sudden he's got an 888 save percentage, and Dawson Cowan plays this past weekend, and first of all, the week before, he shut out Minnesota Duluth. This past weekend, played against Western Michigan, and allowed 3 goals in a loss, but still his save percentage right now is .932. So, he might get more time now. It's crazy right now, how many teams are sort of in limbo there.
And with Omaha, they have, at least according to the numbers, have defended way better in front of Cowan than they have Latkoczy. Latkoczy's expected save percentage is .892 because 40% of the shots he's faced have been from high danger areas, which is crazy. So crazy. He's been a victim of some really poor defense in front of him, but still, like, goal save above expected. We have Latkoczy as -1.1. We have Cowan as +2.4.
Yeah.
So, Cowan has still been better. Yeah, Cowan has still been better.
Latkoczy started out like ridiculous, and it has gone down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had like a 935 or whatever it was, 930-something save percentage with an expected save percentage of like 880.
Yeah, a little bit unsustainable. But the other guy who apparently we have jinxed is Chris Eberle, who we had a story about. And then he was pulled from the Michigan game this past weekend, Ohio State losing those games, and Samuel Hillebrand came in. I don't know if that's going to be permanent, but that was just another guy who I noticed because we had just written a story about him. So, and then Bartoskevich, who was mentioned by Pat Micheletti, and I agree. Like, Michigan Tech looked pretty good, but then Minnesota State was very close to beating out Wisconsin for our team of the week. The only differing factor there was that Minnesota State was at home. So the judges dinged them for that.
Well, yeah, in the NPI, it's what?
That's it. 0.8.
There you go. So.
But, Wisconsin had the road overtime win, so that was an asterisk there. So it's like kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Yeah. But nevertheless, sweeping Michigan Tech, Minnesota State is currently 7 in MPI right now. And just going off what Pat Micheletti said, I believe the next highest CCHA team is Augustana at 18. Bowling Green is 22, Bemidji's 26, St. Thomas 27. So they have some teams within striking distance, but unlike the ECAC, which has 5 teams right now in the top 15. Now, I don't know, their schedules have been very insular right now. Most of those teams have not played many non-league games, so I think we might see a change. Cornell is playing their annual game at Madison Square Garden this weekend against Boston University. That's going to be very intriguing, as it always is, but just as much or more so this year. And Harvard is off to a 5-1-1 start. The only loss is to Cornell. They're hosting Michigan for 2 games, so that's going to be, Michigan's on fire right now. Quinnipiac, we know is Quinnipiac. They've had good wins non-league. That's not that unusual. But like Princeton, for example, they're 15th, right? But what's their schedule been like? They played Stonehill and Alaska non-league. They'll play at Bowling Green this weekend, 2 games. So that'll be definitely a little bit more of a test for them. So speaking of Princeton, though, Kai Daniels with a 5-goal game for 15 years in college hockey. So anyway, all that going on in the ECAC right now.
Yeah, it was funny. I think you had it in the news blurb that was on CHN. There was a 5-goal game in 2009, 2010, and 2011, and then not one for 15 years.
And there wasn't one till back to like 2004, although that's when we first started tracking it. So I'm not sure if there was one in the 3 years before that, because Brian Giunta had a 5-goal game.
That's right.
All in the first period of a game. I remember that too, because I remember sitting home. And this is before, there was all these games on that you could watch on TV. I think I was tracking it on a message board somewhere. But, seeing this all come in and that he has 5 goals in the first period is crazy. I remember that.
I covered one of them. I covered the Stefan DaCosta 5.
That's right.
Game.
That's right. And I remember
that was only his second collegiate game.
Right. That was against Army. And, of course, as it turns out, he did not stick around very much longer. So,
he 2 years, two 45-point seasons, and then signed with the Senators. But I remember, big recruit, people were excited, and it was the first big recruit Merrimack had in a while. And I remember tempering expectations of with people around me going, well, he's a freshman. He's a very light freshman. He was not a very big guy at that point. I know he scored a bunch in the USHL, but he's not that big. It's going to take him some time. Let's see how it goes. And then his second game, he scored 5 goals. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah. Well, he wound up playing only 47 games for the Senators in the NHL. So
Yeah, he's been a big-time player. He's been in the KHL now for like the last, I don't know, probably 10, 15 years. He's still playing, yeah.
Wow, it's crazy.
Still playing. He's still he's the only Merrimack player to win the Tim Taylor Award, and really the only one that's ever had like a major national award. Jim Vesey played in the 80s. He won like that version of the Hobie Baker that they gave out to Division II players, because Merrimack was a Division II school at the time. But as a Division I player, he's the only one in the history of the program that's ever won like a major national award.
Well, as we bounce around here before we get to some listener questions, Providence, you've been on their train. I've been more skeptical, but they looked every bit the best team in the league that you had thought. They lost in overtime Thursday, but, I mean, they outplayed UMass. And then that second game, I think it was 1-1, and they just went scored 3 goals in about 2 minutes, and UMass kind of melted down there, and Providence just went crazy. They looked, 88 shots. They looked pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they want to do. Nate Lehman had said last week, he wants to see 35 to 40 shots a night. Well, 88 in 2 games will do it. But I just don't know. I look at the whole league, and I do think Providence is the best team in Hockey East, but all I see every weekend are teams just beating each other up. And with their non-league record as poor as it is, that's not great for their NCAA hopes as a league.
No.
They've got some big non-conference games this weekend. They've got some matchups. Notre Dame is at Merrimack and BC, so they've got a Big Ten matchup there. And Providence is at Colorado College. So those are pretty important non-conference games for Hockey East this weekend. Yeah,
the games start getting a little bit thinner here as we get into November, December, and so this weekend is still okay. But should talk about the NCHC a bit before we we talked a lot about the Big Ten and everyone else, but Western Michigan kind of just ho-humming their way along through everybody right now. So, it's almost like, oh, okay, it's expected now, so we're not going to talk much about them. But Hampton Slukinski just kind of – it's interesting. His save percentage is only .888, Hampton Slukinski, but they're winning games. I mean, they're just so balanced. They don't have any player over a point per game, but they have a ton of guys, contributing every night. So it's been wild. I mean, they did get swept by Denver, so it still remains to be seen. But they do have they have a big weekend against Duluth coming up, and that's not this weekend, but the week after. So that's going to tell us, I think, a lot about both teams going forward. But I'm not worried about Western Michigan that much right now.
Neither am I. Neither am I.
That save percentage by Slukinski is a little bit alarming, but they're winning for the most part, so I think he'll straighten it out. Arizona State's another team where they've kind of been disappointing this year. They lost 7-1. They did bounce back with an OT win on Saturday against Denver, so that was at least something to hang their hat on going forward. I mean, this is about the time last year where they started improving, so I don't know. It's hard to say what it is. I mean, when they're losing these games, it just feels like they're having breakdowns defensively at the wrong times every night. Sometimes more than one, and sometimes they last a little bit longer. That's just I haven't paid intimate attention to Arizona State on a 60-minute basis. My per 60 against Arizona State is not high, but I have watched a number of their games, at least parts, to see those kind of breakdowns. It's been a bit disappointing, but they do get Ohio State this weekend, which is a good opportunity for them to see what they can do, and then they're not home again until January. So they play at Duluth twice and at Dartmouth twice, which I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah,
at this point. So,
yeah, that replaces their Christmas tournament.
That's right. No more Ledger Bank Classic.
That's right.
But Connor Hasley, who's gone there, who's a transfer from Bentley, had a great year last year. I mean, he's been okay. He's been fine. Like I said, I think it's been defensive that's really been their issue. I mean, they've got guys who can score goals. Cullen Potter had that overtime winner. He's only has 3, and he's a -13. So I mean, I think they need more out of him. But yeah, I mean that's where Arizona stands, and Denver, of course, just kind of rolls along. They're fine. I mean, when I when I see Denver right now, I just think, what? We'll talk to me in in March, because that's where they'll be, and that's when
Yep.
there's nothing to worry about with them. I mean, Eric Polkamp is a Hobie finalist as far as I'm concerned. He's got 16 points in 4, and just everything he does. Him and Boston Buchberger together. Seeing the Buchberger back from that injury from last year, it's just those two are absolutely tremendous. So we will, I'm sure, talk to David Carl on this podcast soon enough.
Two quick things too that we should stick tap. Lindenwood 7-5. They're 16th in the NPI right now.
Well, that's what I was going to. Sorry to interrupt you there, but
them a lot.
LIU, the blossom went off the rose real fast. They went from like 16 themselves to like 30, and then Lindenwood took their place.
They did. They're 7-5. They're 16th. And then also, I know they lost 2 games last weekend. They were 9-2. Now they're 9-4. RIT is sitting 20 in the NPI. I wasn't sure that RIT was going to win 9 games all year, and they've won 9 games before Thanksgiving. So that's been a great start for Matt Thomas too.
Oh, 2 good shout-outs there for sure.
I mean, they lost everybody last year.
Yeah.
All their best players transferred. So I would have taken the under on a 9-win total in the preseason for sure.
If you have a savvy coach, this offseason enabled you to reload a lot faster than normal. And when you combine the fact that so many teams had so much turnover, these teams have been able to take advantage of some of the chaos in college hockey. So it's been fascinating. Whether that can sustain for the whole year, we'll see. But I think it's definitely been fascinating, that's for sure, whether you like it or not. We should mention the Friendship 4 tournament is this weekend in Northern Ireland. That it's Miami, RIT, Sacred Heart, and Union. So that's certainly an interesting one. And there's a tournament in Lake Placid that Clarkson and St. Lawrence host every year.
Right.
Alaska and Lowell are in that one, so that's going on. So, yeah, I mean, the games get a little more scant. One of the games that I'm going to be at this weekend, my annual sojourn to Madison Square Garden for the Cornell versus whomever game is no longer on the table now that I'm in Denver. But Denver is hosting Minnesota in the Hockey Hall of Fame game at Ball Arena, where the Avalanche play on Saturday. So that is going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to that. I'll get a chance to see Mr. David Carl and Bob Motzko up close and personal. So
yep. I will see Notre Dame on Wednesday, and I will be seeing Dartmouth, the number 1 team in the NPI, undefeated, on Saturday. Well, they got Vermont on Friday. Well, they might not be undefeated by the time I see them on Saturday, but now, undefeated number 1 team in the NPI.
And as long as they are, they're throwing a monkey wrench into all these ratings. That's very good. All right, so just before we go here, our listener questions, if you will. We got one from Karen. I don't know if this is a Karen or the Karen or whatever, but since they are complaining about officiating, well, Karen might be appropriate. There's nothing is really that much more boring to me than talking about officiating in all sports. But the question is, the same Hockey East officiating crew is usually scheduled for both games on a weekend. Why is that? Why can't refs be rotated when most schools are so geographically close? Seems like referee grudges often carry over from the first game to the second. I mean, I don't believe that, but you tell me. What do you think?
I don't know. I've noticed that more and more, though. Like, for a while, we didn't see that at all. And I've noticed that more and more, that the same crews will take the same 2 games in a series. I guess I don't really mind it. And the reason is because I think whatever officiating bar they set early on in the weekend will kind of carry its way throughout the entire weekend. That's not always a good thing. I covered a Merrimack Providence series 2 weeks ago that had 25 penalties and 25 power plays in 2 games, which was kind of a lot for me. But at least the standard was set, and the same 2 guys officiated to that standard throughout the entire weekend, so it kept it consistent. But yeah, I guess I don't really have much of a problem with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think what fans see as grudges are really just more adapting to the weekend,
Yeah.
That's what I look at it. But, and also, a question about the viability of the MPI at the moment. And, I wrote an article about that that's on College Hockey News. Check it out. We've talked about it on here. I think it's, it remains to be seen how it is compared to the pairwise, because was usually starting to stabilize right about now. I think the MPI will see. I mean, I'm really curious to see when Dartmouth finally loses a game, what happens to those 5 ECAC teams in the top 15.
Yeah. I ran it. I was playing with it last night. If they lost on Friday to Vermont without, again, any other results being plugged in, just if that game would have happened today by itself, it would drop them to 7.
And what about everyone else? That's the other question.
I only looked at who was it. Harvard and Princeton were 14 and 15. I think those teams stayed exactly the same.
I think
I don't remember what it did to Cornell.
Yeah, Quinnipiac and Princeton are 14 and 15. Harvard's like
that's what I'm making of that. Okay,
Cornell's 3 at the moment, and Cornell has played Dartmouth and they lost. That's one of Cornell's 2 losses. So yeah, I mean, this weekend's going to be huge for Cornell if they can beat BU. Not only will that help them, it'll help the whole league. So, because the ECAC already has a winning record against Hockey East.
Yep.
At the moment.
I don't know. I mean, I could have to look back and see through. We have all the records, but I don't know the last time that happened. I'm going to guess it was a while ago.
Well, you can not only check that out on College Hockey News in our standings page, and you can click on the interconference standings tab, but also you can play around like Mike did with the results by going to our MPI page and clicking the custom results tab and playing around to your heart's content. So there you go. All right. Well, I think that's enough. We had 2 great guests. Usually you only have one, so they took up a lot of time. But always tremendous stuff out of those guys. So good.
And I just found it going back through it. The ECAC had a winning record against Hockey East exactly 10 years ago, 15-16.
There you go.
And it was only by 1 game. 27. They went 28, 27, and 5.
And that was probably a lot of Quinnipiac because they
more than likely
they went to the championship game that year.
More than likely.
All right. Well, lots more to talk about and play with. And enjoy your Thanksgiving, everybody. I will be here cutting potatoes tomorrow and getting ready. So keep everything safe, and hopefully you don't have to fly. That is one of the worst things to do on Thanksgiving, but I'm sure some people are. Anyway, all right. Enjoy. We'll see you next week. There'll be lots more to talk about. So long.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the College Hockey News Insiders Podcast. To submit your listener questions, please send them to @CHN News on X. And for the best college hockey content around, including features, the CHN Team of the Week, stats, rankings, and so much more, visit us at collegehockeynews.com. Until next time, we hope you enjoy all of this week's great on-ice action, and we'll be back to break it down on our next edition. For Adam Woden and Mike McMahon, this has been the College Hockey News Insiders Podcast.